Pillars of Eternity came out in 2015, and many RPGs have come since release that may have had your attention. If you somehow missed Pillars of Eternity on release or still have yet to pick it up, here are 5 reasons to pick up and play in 2022. The story. Set in a high fantasy world, the story is dark and gritty and actually really thought-provoking near the end of the game. The story genuinely builds and keeps you engaged throughout. Very seldom do you question what your current quest has to do with the core story, and even the DLC do their best to ensure you don't forget, even if they do go off in different directions from time to time. The game starts out like many other RPGs, where you are unwillingly thrust into a situation that affects you personally. But as you progress, you discover that the situation is far greater than just you, and your choices will affect everyone, and there is a genuine feeling of responsibility throughout the game. To be blunt, it's not groundbreaking, and in some respects not completely unique. However, the story somehow feels fresh, and you can tell that sincere effort has been applied to develop the story, captivating you to explore it. My most recent playthrough was over 65 hours, and although I have played many times, it still engages me each time I play. It is definitely up there with the top storylines in RPGs for me. Side quests. I'm not a side quester, and I only really do them if they're quick and simple or add genuine substance and lore to the world and/or story. Pillars of Eternity, I'm happy to say, is very much the latter, and bar a few side quests, they do an excellent job of supporting your overall quest without moving you away from it entirely. Most of the companion quests can be done at the same time as the core story, and even though some have nothing to do with the main quest line, they do not detract. Combat. Akin to older Affinity Engine games, the combat requires pausing whilst you consider your next move, and depending on your party makeup and the enemies, this will differ. You will naturally find a common opening in most fights, but after that opening, you will need to review the field of battle, consider your options, set your party to carry out their respective abilities, and then unpause. A moment later, you will repause to discover if your tactics are working or not. Rinse and repeat until you've won or lost, and if you have lost, you restart and work out what went wrong. Nothing I have said about the combat is exclusive to Pillars of Eternity, but what will engage you is the feedback from the combat itself. Where a spell has had little effect, or where that attack has done minimal damage, you're going to know about it through the visual and audio cues which prompt you to change tactic. Of course, when your attacks and tactics are working, you're going to know about it from the same feedback. Statistics. If you want to min-max your character, you can do so, even down to creating a completely custom party and min-maxing each member of it. However, if you prefer a more, for want of a better expression, natural character and party makeup, the game does not punish you to do this. The statistics are linear, so unlike some other RPGs, you can actually have characters with slightly more of X stat and slightly less of Y stat, and that is fine. This shows if you look at the base stats of the story companions, as they are not min-maxed at all, but they still work. Experience. The majority experience in the game is gained via questing rather than combat. If you are fighting an enemy for the first time, you will gain some information about them, thus gain XP. And then the next few fights you will gain a bit more information about them and get XP here too. But after a few battles with that enemy, you will gain no further experience by fighting them, as you know everything about them. The majority of XP is gained from questing, and in a role-playing game such as Pillars of Eternity, I feel this is a very balanced and fair approach. Although combat is inevitable in RPGs, knowing that you can avoid fighting out in the wild and not be hindered gives the player choice of how they wish to approach combat, if at all. Of course, fighting will build up your bestiary, which is very useful, but the impact on overall character's leveling is very minimal. So these are my 5 reasons why I think you should pick up and play Pillars of Eternity in 2022. Have you played Pillars of Eternity before, and if so, what would you say to someone who hasn't to draw them in? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, and as always, stay safe.